Hello and welcome to tonight's Get in Tune. I'm Michael Gracia, and sorry for the darkness. One of my lights is out tonight, but we're gonna have a great time. I have a great guest. He's a friend of mine. I've been wanting to talk to him for a while, and it was a just scheduling on my part. Um, but we have him tonight. But before I bring on my guest, I want to make a couple of announcements. Number one, as I've been saying the whole time, this book, Zorro's Exploits, is available on boldventurepress.com. I illustrated two stories in the book. Uh, Go pick it up. It is a great book. There's, I believe, 17 different stories. 17 new stories in here. Um, it is, it really is amazing, and it was a pleasure to work on. In addition, I'll start posting very soon, but on November 5th in New Jersey, I'll get to town another show. I'll be doing the Pulp Adventure Con where I'll be selling some artwork of pulp characters and some other stuff. Um, and this Saturday is at from noon to 5 at Poe Park in the Bronx is the Batman art show called Batman Bill Finger and Beyond. I have a piece in there that is in vein of the old Jay Ward. So let me show you guys that what you can come see in person. So that is the picture, old Jay Ward style Batman and Joker. I call it. Oh, what was the title? Oh, Joker finds his missing sock. So that is that piece you'll see as well as many others, and there maybe some notable Batman people there, artists possibly. You'll find out only by showing up noon to 5 at Poe Park in the Bronx. All right. Now, with that said, let's bring on our guest tonight. Good friend of mine, Mr. Show Business himself, Joe Bev. Hey, Joe.
This is the show business.
I
You
love that.
know, I'm happy to be here. That's all I have to say. I'm not. I'm very
Well,
humble. I'm very honored
I'm glad you
to
are. We
be
already
here.
have a comment for you from Colin Pittman saying, "Hi, Joe. Great to see you."
Yeah, it's Colin Pittman. It's picnic basket. Yay!
And we also have Dylan Royer, who's a regular watcher. He says, "Hey, Mike. Hey, Dylan. Get to know
There
Joe
you
tonight.
go.
Joe is a
Nice.
actor. He is a voice actor. He is all around, nice guy.
Well,
We're gonna.
voice acting is the root of many actors. You can find people that, like myself that are on TV that you don't necessarily recognize them right away. John Stevenson, who played Mr. Snake, but he's in every TV show in the 1960s. Larry Storch and Ron Biner and all these people were voice actors as well, and radio actors. And that's really
Yeah,
where I learned it in radio acting. You don't have that as much now. The actors today are not necessarily training the voice to the phone and their body
yeah,
technique as much. I can't say that definitely, but my experience is the old tool is now considered a little bit fake, vaudeville. Yeah, I'm waving my arms. Don't wave your arms, Joe. We don't want you to sound like a bear. We want you to sound like this new Yogi Bear.
yeah. I just want to say there's a little bit of choppiness on your end now. Like you're cutting out a little bit. I hear you perfectly in my headphones. I don't know how the audience is hearing you, but your image is a little choppy. So I'm just letting you know that right now.
Yeah,
Um,
I look good. You know what it is? I'm not all here. I'm not all there. I'm nowhere. I'm everywhere. And because of that, the human eye cannot see me for very long. I'm like the shadow, but sort of like fuzzy.
and maybe we'll talk about the shadow. I know you're a fan. Is he Hey, Izzy,
Yes,
thanks.
I've got my own crazy, twisted version of the world. Instead of the shadow silhouette and on and on. Even my character, Group Ballingham, which is a Bogart kind of thing, is very, strange. It goes places that most, the poor guy is forced into places that most detectives don't get to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so before obviously you're going to be doing some voices the whole night. I've actually never, I don't think I've ever had a
I
conversation
got
with
no
you
choice, pal.
where
That's
a
what
voice
I
has,
do. Draw me
where,
a picture, and I'll make a little voice for a little tiny monster, a little alien from
hey, listen,
Brooklyn.
if you want to have some fun, I could do some sketches live,
Sure, you do some
and you can
sketches,
come
and
up.
I'll give them a voice.
Let me set up a thing,
I
but right
have
now,
one later. We'll do one eventually. You may probably want to ask questions if I ever shut up. Um, but later on, I want to tell a little story as Mr. Jinx.
okay.
It's very brief.
So I actually have a page
You
all
dig?
set up, but I'm not going to start drawing yet. I want to talk and get to know. Tell us a little, for those who don't know who you are. Tell us a little bit about yourself, about how you got into acting and voice acting.
Well, I when I was really little, when I was 3, my mom sent me to dancing school, and they put makeup on you and they throw you out on stage, and all the girls kiss you. And so that was it. I went in every play through high school, college. It was in the theater department. I learned how to, hang lights, everything. But
Yeah,
my main love has always been radio theater and listening to The Shadow, The Lone Ranger. And also, really, back in the 70s, you didn't have videotape even, let alone computers. And so I would take the sound from television shows I liked, or Hanna-Barbera cartoons or Warner Brothers cartoons. I'd record them onto the cassette, and then I'd listen to them and picture them in my mind. And eventually I started making up my own characters and stories and learning how to do sound effects and voices. And the short version of the story is that I eventually got to be the protege of Daws Butler. He became my mentor because he listened to some of these tapes that I sent him boldly, and he liked it. Yeah, it was interesting because I was ad libbing and using 78 records and making up sound effects, and he didn't believe me. He said, "No, you couldn't be possible. Don't. If you're writing it down, it's okay. You don't have to make it all up." I said, "No, I really do that. I can sit here and you know." And that's all. We just started working together through correspondence. Eventually, I'd go and visit him, and then go to recording sessions and see Captain Crunch commercials and the Jetsons. And I knew Mel Blanc, and Mel was very kind to me. And I could do all of his characters, including Daffy. And the Sylvester is deeper; it's a similar voice, and pretty much all of them, except luckily we have Bob Bergen. I can't do Porky Pig. I don't know how he does it. I don't know how Mel did it, and it's a special talent. It's not a stutter at
yeah.
all. It's some special thing he's doing that I couldn't possibly. Nobody can do it, and I'm impressed with Bob Bergen, but. I got to do a lot of the characters because of Joe Lasky, who got to do many of those characters, even when Mel was still alive, would be becoming ill, and he would do, Yosemite Sam in the Roger Rabbit, and I got to do for BearManorMedia.com his autobiography that he wrote before he passed away, unfortunately young, as a heart attack. He tells fascinating stories about how Bill Scott, Bullwinkle, helped him along and this and that, and it leads to other things. And he eventually meets Mel Blanc. He works with Jackie Gleason and does work for voicing Jackie Gleason. And so I get to do all these characters in the thing. And one of them, if you had the video, we'll play it at some point, is me doing a little bit And it's just an example. It's really a minute long. It's an example of what Alasky allowed me to do by just writing in little things. This was a bit that he used to do as a stand-up act. So, it's the Daffy Duck meeting Columbo. You see. So there we are. And I got plenty of stuff happening in the future we'll talk about.
Well, yes, definitely. I was just reading a comment. So Dylan says, "Hey Joe, I made my first cartoon short called Toonies." And Dylan, I've told you, you got to drop us a link so we know where to find it. So we can't watch it without a link. So drop a link in the comments, and we'll totally check it out one day. Not live on air, but I'll watch it after. So you trained under Daws. You've actually given me a copy of the Daws audiobook, which you did, and you did all the voices too, and it was a fantastic audio.
Yeah, that was another opportunity because instead of the way the book is written, it is really in his words and in the words of the characters and sketches that he wrote and excerpts of the cartoons and of the LPs, the Cold Picks records, which are fantastic, which Daws and Don Messick actually wrote. Treasure of Sarah's Mattress, Quick Draw McGraw and the Treasure of Sarah's Mattress. You ever heard that one? It's fantastic. And then there's Huckleberry Hound and the Ghost Ship, which is excellent. That's Mr. Jinx all over. He's scared of ghosts. When he's chasing those miserable Mises. He's my favorite character, really. If I had an opportunity to do any voice, that would be it.
Really, Jake? Okay, no, that's cool. I've always, well, you know me, I'm a Hanna-Barbera fan.
Super Snooper is also very, very laconically swell, I think. And
it's a little dark.
He just follows he's the best assistant that a detective could ever have.
So these here are my Hanna-Barbera shelves. They're mostly pop. But I am a huge Hanna-Barbera fan. You can see up on the top, I have a Ricochet Rabbit pop.
Yeah, I see. Bing, bing, bing. Ricochet Rabbit.
I also have
Don Messick.
Pop. He's probably my all-time favorite.
Along with Mel Blanc.
Yes.
Gee, Mr. Ricochet.
Ricochet was always my favorite, and Magilla Gorilla.
Oh, those are great. Those are wonderful. Yeah. Those are very close to my favorite cartoons.
Yeah.
In the Hanna-Barbera vein, anything from the 58 to like 66 is just stunning. And then they get very busy doing features and other things, and they start doing supernatural stuff. That I think really the shift. I was thinking about this earlier. The shift with cartoons on television was that originally they were syndicated and put on at night. Like after the news, before the regular, programs. So the kids were watching it at like 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. They were watching Quick Draw McGraw and Super Snooper and all that. So the cartoons are very much written by Warren Foster, Mike Maltese. These guys came from Warner Brothers, and they are writing this very sophisticated wordplay and beautiful backgrounds and just fantastic characters and then somewhere I think Magilla Gorilla is the first one really, and they kept the values there on that. Those are really fast paced too. The music is really Howard Curtin's really on fire. But after that they start. I think they start toning down cartoons. So then eventually it leads to in the 70s with things like Yogi's Gang, where each week they solve an environmental,
well, things even
Mr. Smog.
I won't name names, but I've spoken to artists who have worked for Hanna-Barbera in the 70s and 80s, and they weren't really happy with the work they were producing. It was a job.
But they had no choice.
Yeah, that was...
Even Joe Barbera had no choice. They had no choice. They made the best of it. You notice they pulled out like anything. It's like, what do you got in your drawer? Because when I interviewed Barbera in 1990, and it was a long interview, but it ended up being his obit on NPR. He said that when they first were thinking of the Flintstones, their first ideas they came up with were football gear, the future, people in the future, etc. Cats and dogs, all these things that have the Roman Empire. So you got in 1971, you got Roman holidays, but it's Saturday morning, and they're trying to do something that's very satirical, but it's pretty dead. It's not alive. Yeah. It's not the Flintstones, or Top Cat. Same thing with Where's Huddles. They used Mel Blanc and Alan Reed doing the same voices, but they just were they were football coaches and gee, Fred,
Yeah.
Huddles. Where's Huddles? He's watching the Flintstones.
Well, first off, I want to say something about the Yogi cartoon that you mentioned. And then well, not just Yogi's Gang, but the cartoons that kind of came out of that era. A lot of them were trying.
It was an error. That was very much an error. ERROR.
It was really a time where they were kind of bringing all those animal characters together. They started that around the Yogi Gang time. And there was a show that came out. It ran for a couple of years, I think 3 years, from 1985 to 1988. And because in 1985 I was 9 years old, this was one of my favorite cartoons. I remember it very fondly. I've watched a few episodes on the Boomerang app. I can look back at it and say it wasn't very good, but it was one of the better ones of all those shows that collected the animals together.
It was the best of the bad. You could say that, right?
It was Yogi's Treasure Hunt. Now I know in Yogi's Treasure Hunt, I believe that's when was it when they stopped using Daws in those, or was he still on that?
No, he's in all those. In fact, he liked them. He didn't love them, but he liked them, and most of them are written by Mark Evanier, who went on to produce Garfield. And Mark is a bit of an animation historian himself, and knew Daws Butler as well.
He did,
but he's a writer, director. He's but the reason those work is because they are good stories that each of the characters. There's not a villain; they have a goal, and they band together, and each of their personalities is fine. And the only thing that's wrong with them, and I think there's two things going on there. One, Daws was not happy with Baba Louie's missing. No Baba Louie. Where's Baba Louie? He is his best friend. Quick Draw is not very bright. Without Baba Louie, he's going to blow himself up. And he's gone. And they said, he was told, this is the truth. This is how Daws said it. He was told that the audience of the network would no longer allow a white Protestant horse to be the master or suppressor of a Spanish donkey, a Latino.
Yeah.
So political correctness had already come in by then. This is around the time that the Frito Bandito's gone and others, and they eventually. Jose Jimenez is gone by then for sure, and all those stereotypes, which I found funny at the time, and I understand why they disappear. But when Daws felt that they were best friends and they loved each other, and he saw them as people. He didn't see them as animals. He saw them as people.
I want to get that because I actually felt the same way. I never saw it as like, Quick Draw is the boss, and he's the he's the sidekick and all that.
The other thing is, in classic comedy, it's Laurel and Hardy, it's Abbott and Costello. Baba Louie is the one who is in the subservience, like the deputy, but he's the smart one who saves the dumb guy who's the hero all the time, El Cabal. Yeah. The same thing is true of all those characters. But the other thing that's wrong with it is Quick Draw McGraw, and this is a problem with Yogi's gang, Yogi's Ark Lark. Quick Draw McGraw lived in the Old West.
Yeah.
1860s. What is he doing in the modern dime, 1987, next to Huckleberry Hound? Who, Huckleberry Hound is an actor like Mr. Magoo, plays a Western guy, plays the postman, he plays this guy, policeman, Tweaky, somebody else. But he doesn't actually live in the past, and they never meet in a Hanna-Barbera world. They would never meet. It's like a bizarro world.
Well, I will say this. I'm one of the few people in this world, one of the few people who actually enjoys The Good, the Bad, and the Huckleberry Hound. I love that cartoon. Okay,
well,
so I'm not the only
Doss
one.
is all over it.
Yeah,
it's good.
It's a great cartoon.
It's good. No, you got your Dalton brothers. You got Dinky Dalton. You got good voices. The animation looks like the characters. Huck's got good music. I like it. They did a bunch at the time. I think that's the only one that really works. One is where Yogi Bear, in outer space monsters.
Oh yeah, the
aliens that look like Yogi Bear, which they did as a short funny, but this wasn't funny. It's just not funny.
Yeah. I will say I do remember the designs and enjoying them as a kid. For me, and I really want to get to the comments in a moment, but for me, being an artist, I can tell you my first memory of cartoons are Hanna-Barbera cartoons and reruns. I was born in '76. I don't remember if it was like a Magilla Gorilla cartoon, Ricochet Rabbit, or Peter Potamus, but those are my earliest cartoon memories.
Those are great. They're fantastic.
And then, when I started picking up a pencil, now I picked up a pencil around 2 years old, my parents tell me, but I really started geting serious drawing. Probably
yourself in the eye.
No, thank God, never did that. But I would took my craft serious about 8 years old, and I would record everything on videotape, and I'd play it back, pause a frame, and learn to draw. And that's how I learned how to draw a lot of Hanna-Barbera cartoons, because that's what I was recording mostly. But I was also trying to learn animation at the same time. So what I would do is I would play the videotapes back in slow motion and see if I could see where the jumps were. But you know what? You can't really tell a lot going in that. But it wasn't until I got that great book, A Cartoon Animation by Preston Blair, where I was like, oh, wow, this is an amazing world, and this is how it's done.
Just to be able to draw that girl, that Tex Avery girl alone.
I look at her every day. There she is.
Yeah,
there's
I'm sure you do. There you go.
And that's the that's her dance cycle behind.
And Doss is not in that one, but he's in one of the later versions. I think the Riding Hood one.
Oh, Red Hot Riding Hood. Yeah. So let's go to some comments real quick, because we got a couple of voice requests. Let's see if you could do them. Let's see who started it.
Go to the videotape.
Oh, right here. Colin asks, "Can you do Hokey Wolf?"
Of course I can do Hokey Wolf. It's very much like Phil Silvers, don't you know? I love doing. Oh, you're such a cute boy, Colin. I love you. Glad to see you.
And Dylan asks, "Can you do Wally Gator?"
Wally Gator is a silly alligator who lives in the swamp, don't you know? No wonder he's always trying to get out of over the wall.
I love. It's the only alligator I enjoy. Let's see. Colin, when we were talking, haven't had that yet.
Oh yeah, so those are strange. Those are really strange. Those are the strangest of all. And the Galaxy Goof Ups, for some reason, has Mel Blanc doing a sort of a side Daffy, and it's this white duck that kind of looks like Daffy would have looked in the 30s. It's weird.
I will. Yogi's Space Race was basically what was that show?
It's the same premise as Wacky Races and a lot of the other ones.
But one of the things I love about Hanna-Barbera is they designed the absurd so well. So like you look at Wacky Racers, you look at Yogi's Space Race, the vehicles are just so cool to look at. Even if the show is terrible,
What's happened to me over the years is that I look at this stuff, which I hated as a teenager because I loved the classic stuff, and it's a totally different genre. Really, when they went into children's television, they had to take like a left turn in order to keep his company going, and a lot of those people were with him since MGM. I mean, they kept people working well into the 1990s. And that what works about every one of the shows they did, and even ones that I'm not a fan of, like Josie and the Pussycats, Scooby-Doo, are so extremely well done, well written, well voiced. The backgrounds are like paintings from some museum. The characters themselves, always based, like Scooby-Doo and all that's based on Dobie Gillis's characters. Intriguing, interesting, and I can go back and watch any of that stuff now. Space Ghost, any of it that I didn't like when it was on, and enjoy it now for what it is, and see it as really, really professional, and not as restrictive as, which I think are great too, which is the Patty Freeling stuff, which all looks the same. I mean, they developed their own style, which is sort of a flattened out version of the Warner Brothers cartoons. For his timing, and the music's very important. They're wonderful, but the ones I still can't watch, Filmation.
Okay, well, I have a love of Filmation.
Anything today by Filmation, and I used to watch them as a kid and think something's wrong with the comic timing. The writing's good.
Oh well, no.
Are okay. Larry Storch, beautiful, but why do I feel like I want to throw up? I feel nauseous watching the Groovy Ghoulies.
Everybody has.
Whereas I can sit through the Banana Splits, you know what I mean? Which is not the greatest idea in the world either.
But the thing with Filmation is they constantly reused all the same stuff, and it wasn't just like backgrounds like Hanna-Barbera made famous, doing all that. It's the
woman, but her hair's a different color.
Yeah,
in the crowd, in the background, waving a flag,
Yeah, exactly. It was, and even as a kid, I realized that was it. I knew watching He-Man, watching Brave Star, all those cartoons, but I love.
I like their dramas better because it's almost like Johnny Quest, where the animation doesn't have to be full, but if the drawings and the muscles and everything is dark, everything nice, angles and all that, and the voices are good, so like. I like their Lone Ranger with William Conrad as the Lone Ranger.
I got that. I got Zorro on DVD.
Great. You could actually just listen to those and go really good.
Yeah.
And they kept the drawings to a minimum, but they didn't keep repeating themselves.
Well, I will say this: when I had
they didn't see the same movements over and over.
Yeah. When I was working on this book, I got to I embraced Zorro for 1 month straight. I watched nothing but Zorro for the most part. I watched the Guy Williams Zorro.
Did you watch the Guy Williams TV series?
Yes, I did. I have the complete series on DVD. I watched.
He is very good in that,
Oh yeah, it's one of my favorite series. I watched.
He was wasn't happy with the Lost in Space because he thought he was coming in to play the hero, and the show was kind of dramatic in the beginning until Jonathan Harris came in and said, "I'm the guest star."
Yeah.
I met Jonathan Harris. Very, very nice man. Very nice man. Extremely talented. But one thing about him is that he comes from like the Bronx. And to really hear him talk, he talks like this, to be honest. This is the way Jonathan Harris could really talk. But in the theater and on television, when he's being interviewed, yes, my boy. He had an ascot on. I met him. Yep. We were both auditioning for a nutty professor character in a cartoon in LA. And he had an ascot on, a blue, suit, jacket, navy jacket, and the plaid pants. He had an emblem. He was like going to the country club. And I said, "Oh, Mr. Harris, nice to meet you. How are you doing?" And he said, "Oh, my boy, it's so sad. They only want me to play Dr. Smith." I thought, well, you're a good Dr. Smith, I got to tell you. Neither of us got the part, though.
Let me go
You
to
gotta
some
lose a
more.
part. You might as well lose it alongside of somebody like Jonathan Harris.
Yeah. Let's go to the comments here. We're gonna go back to some of the stuff we were talking about earlier. But Colin says even Fred and Barney was seen with Yogi's gang in certain
Really,
specials, TV
I
shows.
never saw that.
I don't know. I feel like I know what he's talking about, but I feel there were more cartoon intros and the shows were separated. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
In Credicon, our
Oh
friend
yeah,
Mike
that one.
Lopez.
That's the one that came out around the same time as the Huckleberry Hound, Good, Bad, and the Huckleberry Hound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, he says Yogi's Great Escape.
It's just Great Escape. There you go. You punish him. People are trying to punish me, you see. Why couldn't they just leave him in Jellystone Park? If he can get out, it's not funny anymore. It's true.
Yeah.
You know, you got to know who the characters are. That's a different show. Put a different bear in there.
Mm-hmm.
Make him purple.
Colin Olsen says,
like Great Bape.
That's right.
Yeah,
Fred and Barney were in the Laugh Olympics.
Yeah, the All-Star Christmas Caper. Sure.
That's right.
Laugh Olympics. Sure. There you go.
Yeah. Again,
basically, you would call that cannibalization. Cannibalization, it's a creative term, really, which means that you reuse your own material and redo it in another way to keep your career going. Raymond Chandler did that with his character. He just, he kept going back to the same short story and then making an entire novel out of it, but changing it, I steal from myself all the time.
That's okay.
It's really the most creative way to be is to steal from yourself because you're building upon building. You're not plagiarizing or stealing from somebody else, but you're stealing from your own experience. A joke that worked 1,000 years ago works today.
Oh, exactly.
That's why Bob and I can still do Bob Greenberg and I can still do Abbott and Costello, and we're going to be doing it. We're doing it. We're back together, baby.
That's fantastic.
The greatest comedian in the world, Bob Greenberg. First of all, we're doing Abbott and Costello for whatever, 20 minutes, half an hour, January 6th down at Southern Florida. I'll announce it soon. And then we're also doing Gleason and Carney. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to introduce Ralphie Boy. He's going to come out and do Jackie. Gleason, too. Earthquake. So there you go. That's happening in January. It's happening in January, and it's happening in, look at that. And it's happening in March. Yeah, that's just some of the stuff I've done over the last couple of years. I haven't done as much, but I've stuck very close, if you notice, the stuff I like.
Yeah. Now, this is actually where I was going
to... are me doing the voices, even the Abbott and Costello. Shh, don't tell Bob. But I did Costello on it.
Well, that's actually what I was going to bring up. That you and I are both big Abbott and Costello fans.
Huge.
And it's one of the reasons. Like I love also. Growing up, I loved Hanna-Barbera because they were. I don't want to say they were Abbott and Costello characters, but they all played with wordplay. All the best shows, and that's what made Abbott and Costello great. To this day, 13 times 7 equals 21 is my favorite bit. I think I crack up at that constantly.
There's so many versions of all these too, between the movies and the TV show and the live shows. But I'll tell you what, that routine on the television show, it always boggles my mind. I love watching that 2 seasons. But it was recorded, by the way, in the Hal Roach studios, that whole series of Abbott and Costello. But what amazed me about that episode is Mr. Fields is doing that with him, not Bud Abbott. And Mr. Fields is allowing him and doing himself with a grease pencil, writing all over the hallway wall.
Exactly. I got to say, my favorite version, and I forget what movie it was. It was the one where they were in the Navy. And
oh, sure. Yeah. Well, it's called In the Navy.
That's it. Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry. I forget. It's been a while.
In the Navy.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen it, but I always watch
the one with Meets Frankenstein is called Meets Frankenstein.
Thank you. I didn't know that.
It's not hard,
But they were playing cooks, and when they're having this
Sure.
argument,
On a ship with Martha
Abbott yeah,
Bray and
Abbott goes to Costello and says, "Did you go to school stupid?" And Costello replies, "Yes, and I came out the same way."
came out the
And
same
it's just
way.
that joke right there.
Yeah,
And then
Bob
they
and I
do, and then
start
they
with
do,
that. That's one
yeah.
of our first jokes to set the thing up. And then I ask him all the mathematical questions. Suppose you had $5 in that pants pocket and $20 in that pants pocket. What would you have? Somebody else's pants. No. Let me put it a different way. Suppose I gave you $5 and he gave you $5. What would you have? $5. No. If I gave you $5 and that guy over there gave you $5, what would you have? $5. You don't know your arithmetic. You don't know that guy. He ain't going to give me $5. You know? Then the best one is, and then we move on to mustard, and eventually we end up on who's on first. But the best one is, so I'm going to ask you a hypothetical question. Oh, hypothetical. I once got a hypothetical needle. No. You don't understand. Just suppose you're 40 years old. All right, I'm 40 years old. And you're in love with a girl who's 10 years old. I'm in love with a girl who's 10 years. See you later, pal. I ain't going to jail. No. Come back here. Just suppose, all right? You're 40, she's 10. Now you can't marry the girl, right? You're 4 times as old as her, right? No, not unless I come from the mountains. Oh, no. It'll get me in trouble. All right. But look, all right, you can't marry it, so you wait. Say you wait 5 years, right? Okay, so now you're 45, she's 15. Now you're only 3 times as old as that little girl. Ah, she's catching up, sure. Okay, now, but you can still get married, right? Okay, so you wait another 15 years. Now she's 30, you're 60. Now you're only twice as old as that little girl. My question to you is this. How long will it take before you and the girl are the same age? That's ridiculous, Abbott. If I wait for that girl, she'll pass me right up. What do you mean pass you right up? Then she'll be older than me. I ain't going to marry an old girl. You're going to marry a girl you don't even know. You know, and it goes on
Yeah.
like that.
And
He's
in
much
this,
better than him.
in
Hey,
this is
Abbott! The first time we ever worked together with only a phone rehearsal, he was brilliant. But we were doing a Who's On First, rehearsing in the afternoon before the show on stage, and I'd never worked with him before. And the first time we went around first base, and I went woo, which is his thing to do. And he went, no, you don't do that. I do that. He stopped. He went like, no. I went, oh yeah, that's right. I'm not supposed to be funny. He is.
now let me ask you, all like this a Bud and Lou festival, that some of that stuff that you were just doing can be found on this here.
It's a combination. See, all of them are, but in that one specifically is it's about half. I did a radio show for a while for Bear Manor, only for about 2 years. It was called the Joe TR show, and the first half hour was a real old time radio show, and then I'd follow it with a parody. In this case, what I did was I did brand new material. I wrote new material for Abbott and Costello, did it myself. Jimmy Durante, Phil Silvers, all these characters, and then Jack Benny even, and then I did like half of the CD, maybe an hour and a half's worth of these little, 10-minute to 20-minute pieces. Some of them were half an hour, and then the second half is old time radio remastered, beautiful sound. Like even the Laurel and Hardy has some recordings of their pilots that they did for radio that failed that are really good. And somebody else had them on, some kind of a CD, an extra or something. And I'm telling you, it was the speed was way too slow, so I cleaned it up and fixed it. I even sent it to the guy, and I never heard from him. People don't like when you correct them,
Yeah.
Your reporting is off speed, pal. One of the guys is supposed to be an expert on Laurel and Hardy. The same thing with the legends, the heroes. It's Gary Cooper, and it's Bogart, and it's John Wayne, and all like that. Those are new and classic Sherlock Holmes that I do all the voices for. And then the Uncle Dunkles, Daws Butler wrote some, I wrote some with him, and then I wrote the rest by myself. And there's a lot of new ones on there that have never been heard. The stuff that I wanted to do for you tonight, if we have time,
I think we're going to get to that soon. Go ahead.
20 Terrific Tales by Daws Butler, which is Marjorie Dickerson, and then this Mary Had a Little Lamb bit.
Okay. Yeah, no, let's get to them.
Play that Columbo.
Play what?
The Daffy Duck meets Columbo. Can you play that?
Which one's that under? Oh, that was the other video you sent me. That was the video you sent me. Give me 1 second because I'm not gonna let people. I'm not gonna log in.
I'll just take an app. The audience. The audience will take.
What I did was.
I don't even tell you how to run your show. After all,
Don't worry about it.
I mean, Daws Butler, you just got lighter in there. If Daws Butler was here, he'd have puppets. You see, all of a sudden, Beanie and Cecil would come out.
Mike Wilson.
He had Huck and Yogi puppets too. He had Huck and Yogi puppets.
Mm-hmm. I just want to let everyone know I put a link to where all those audio books are in the chat, so you guys can click the link and look at them later afterwards. Let me stop the share here and let me bring up the Daffy, see if it plays. Sometimes I do have issues with audio because I'm on a Mac here, but let's see what happens. All right.
I'll recreate it for you.
Well, I'll let you know in 1 second. First of all,
it won't start until after this.
No, I know. I'm just giving it full screen. And let's hit play.
Not hearing it.
You're not hearing it. Let me try this.
No.
Sound is.
I'll narrate it live. Excuse me, sir, but
let me give me 1 second. Let me whoops.
This is an insult.
Hold on,
I've never been so humiliated in all my life. You think that's bad? My wife won't let me smoke my cigars in bed.
All right, let me start over from the beginning so we can.
Wish I could start over from the beginning. Is there a rewind button on me somewhere?
Here we go.
I can't hear myself, sir.
No, I was saying if you want, you were going to do it live, right?
I'll do it live. You go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Let me hit play.
Sorry, I didn't know that was happening. I'll do it, man. Okay. Here we go.
Yeah. Let's go.
Excuse me, sir, but my name is Lieutenant Columbo. Perhaps you've heard of me. I'm from Homicide. Look, you slovenly person. Probably a tourist. I've never seen you before in my life. So there. Excuse me, sir, but I believe you, Mr. Duck, Mr. Daffy Duck. Is that not right, sir? That's right. I'm Daffy Duck, and no autographs. Look, I've got to keep talking because it takes too long, and I don't know what the line is. But that's okay, because Joe Bev will just say anything. Excuse me, sir, but I think you're the murderer. No, I'm not the murderer. Yes, you are. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. No, you're not. Yes, I am. No, you're not. Yes, I am. And to prove it, here are some 8x10 glossies of me at the scene of the crime. Oh, Columbo, you're despicable.
All right. I got to say, for you guys at home, I hope you enjoyed that. For me, I forgot to turn the sound off on the video, so I heard it was like this weird echo on my part here. But it was fun to hear.
Somebody heard something. But that's that's a special art because traditionally that's how it was originally done. So the Fleischer cartoons, Jack Mercer and Mae Questel are looking at the screen with the live orchestra, and it was animated to the sound of a tick, just tick, 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 tick.
Yep. Well, Joe froze for a moment. But animators, so you know what he's talking about with the tick. Animators used to work with a metronome, which is what musicians use with keeping the beat.
Hello.
Oh, you're back. Welcome back.
Yeah, we're here.
We have.
But I was just saying that thank you to the guy who, the Facebook woman, whoever, the dog, the salamander's name is Facebook user, who said that was fantastic.
Yes. And
you
it
gotta
was
do something. Well, in the old days they used to do that, and then for the purpose of cutting costs, it was faster that eventually, like Warner Brothers, started recording the sound ahead of time and then animating to it instead.
Yeah.
But I love to be able to look at a picture like that, and it's looping. Like you can take a picture of Jackie Gleason talking, and all of a sudden I got to do, hey Norton,
Well,
which is what Joe Lasky basically had to do. He was actually chosen by Jackie Gleason to do Jackie Gleason's voice looped in these lost episodes where some of the sound was skewed.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, that's how good Joe Lasky was.
Okay, so what we're going to do, speaking of you looking at drawings, whoops, I did not mean to make it that big there. Let's get us on the screen too. I figured I would do a drawing now. Whoops, wrong screen. Mike Wilkie said that was great. Oh, just one more thing.
Yes.
So you said you want me to draw a character and you're going to bring it to life with a voice. What type of character are you interested in me drawing, or should I just start sketching?
You should just do any kind of character, and I got to come up with a voice, because that's always the dilemma. And what a character looks like really does determine their facial structure, their bone structure, their posture, their personality, their tone of voice, whether they're smiling or frowning or grimacing, gritting their teeth,
let's make him. What could he be doing? Let's give him.
You're so great to watch, because
thank you.
All you just need to start making circles, and before you know it, you've got this person, this character.
Let's give him. I'm just gonna give me 1 second. Let me scale him down just a bit so I can have some more room drawing him.
You're watching it here, folks, for the first time.
Okay, and let's go back to my brush. Okay. Let's have this guy watering his lawn or something, so I'll have a hose here. Why did it change? There it goes. Whoops, what happened there? Hold on. That was weird. Let's.
It's an earthquake.
Let's bring his legs down, give him some bony. Give him his little socks up here. And let's have a little water. Push right here. And then there is poking out his head. It's a little skunk. Skunk's tail out here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there you go. I'm just adding a little detail now, background.
It's all right.
That's his
Give me a little second, just a little moment here. Well, howdy, Mr. Skunk. You look hot. I sure would like to water you. How's that feel? Boy, you sure do stink. You know, my wife won't let me wear my, without go outside without my pants on, but she's not home right now. You don't tell nobody, are you? Did I tell you stink?
All right, I like that. Let's do another.
You know, well, there's a couple of clues for me, and everybody's going to do it different.
Let's.
But you know, you gave him an underbite, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So I gave mine an underbite, and then I you know, he's Midwestern. He's not quite country, but he's happy because you see the smile on his face. But he's talking kind of with his mouth closed, you see. And his eyes are half closed. He's a little bit lazy with the belly and all that. He's looking at the skunk. Doesn't look scared. Looks happy. Hey, Mr. Skunk.
Very true. Well, let me just answer some comments. Dylan's asked who that was. What's the guy? That was just the guy who came off the top of my head right now. I'm about to do another
guy.
You
know, you talk about voice placement. That would be kind of a crazy Guggenheim placement, you know, which is almost Mr. Jinx, which is almost Kermit the Frog, you know, which is almost Dudley Do-Right. It's a different personality, but it's almost the same voice.
Yeah, and Dylan
likes my voice. Well, thank you.
All right, we're gonna go with a cartoon. We're gonna go with a cartoon animal for this one, and
all right,
let's. Oh, you know what? Let's not do. I'm actually going to give you one of my characters. Let's see if you can come up with the voice I hear in my head when I draw him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
This should be fun.
Do I win a prize?
No,
I'm drinking my milk.
Okay.
It's not whiskey. I'm drinking milk. I like milk.
Milk is good. Not for people like me who's lactose intolerant, but
this is actually lactose free.
Well, then it's perfect for me.
But I like milk.
Little erasing here. Okay, and actually, we're going to make his eyes look angry in this one here. I want to see how you would do him angry. Then you don't see his eyes, so it just highlights on the glasses there.
Right. He looks like they're going around and around, or you know, that's just reflection, but it's very, very nice. And you know what's great too is these old time styles where like nobody wears a derby anymore, but it sure is funny.
I love that. I mean, I
right?
don't have one, but I'd love to have one.
You can't work with a derby, you know. I mean, people don't wear them in real life, but they didn't wear them in real life in the days when Laurel and Hardy were doing it, and Stan Laurel,
Yeah.
when they were wearing them. That was already out of style. You know, that's why they stood out, right? Everybody's walking around in fedoras, and they're walking around in a bowler hat, you know. Okay. And you'll notice that when I speak as this character, I move my finger and gesticulate and put my eyebrows very much like his so that you know that I am talking to you. Do you understand?
That's not no, listen, that's not the voice I hear. Um, um, what I'll tell you a little bit more about the person. I don't want to give his name away yet because I'm not ready to bring him to the public with a name.
Let's just do us a sample of it because I'm not on a game show.
No, I want to see it. This is fun. It's
I get paid to do this. Keep going,
okay.
Joe. Come on, I need a voice.
No, I know the voice I want. I just can't do it well because during my the surgery I had.
Well, nobody's asking you to do it well.
I had a problem with the breathing tube coming out, and I don't have my voice back.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, but listen, he's a very weak character.
Let me just say, I'll do anything you want. If you want to explain it to me, and I'll try again, that's fine.
Well, we'll do it. Then I'll do my version.
What I'd like is for you to draw the story I'm gonna tell is Mr. Jinx. I bet you can draw it pretty quick.
I probably could. We'll do this one, and then we'll do the Mr. Jinx. So this is a very.
I would love that because then they hear me doing a live thing, but they see you drawing it as I say it. Absolutely. Which was my favorite part of the Captain Kangaroo show, where they had the reverse screen. They had the guy in the back, and he's writing on the screen backwards, and he's drawing a picture. It comes out of nowhere, you
know. I got to be honest. I don't remember that from the show. I'd have to go back and.
Well, yeah, you're there's not a lot of video of it, unfortunately, but it was a great show. It was comedy, music. It's wonderful. That particular sketch is marvelous because they did it to a Mitch Miller session of the hole in the ground where they grow the tree. There was a hole in the middle of the ground, the biggest hole that you ever did see, and the hole in the ground. And the tree grew, and the tree grows up as it goes, and then there's a bird.
So
it's exciting.
All right. Yeah, so let me just give you a quick description of this guy. He's a very weak character who gets angry at people for mistreating him. And I like to think of him who's a character he's got a little sadness and depression to him, but he sticks up for himself.
With the show, you're in the show. What do you know? I think we're back on the show, so let's go.
Did you freeze or something?
Toe. Don't you know?
Okay, let's move on because I think you might have frozen
There's
first.
That break, right?
Yeah. All right.
So what do you want now?
Well, no. You want to do the Mr. Jinx thing? Let's do the Mster Jinx.
Oh, I'd love to do Mr. Jinx. I'm going to tell you a story. I'll tell it as slow as I need because I know you might be a little, like arthritic, perhaps.
Not in the hand, only in the hips.
But be that as it may, leave us continue, and I will tell you the story of the Mary, what had a little lamb. So you could draw Mary and you could draw a little lamb, you see. And the thing about this lamb was that its fleece was white as snow. And to get this is a very, 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 very sad story. And I kind of, you'll hear about it later. I don't want to ruin the continuity, okay? But you see, this lamb, gee, well, I don't know the name of the lamb, but Mary, the lamb followed the Mary to school one day, which happened to be against the rules. And the teacher, which, well, she was not very bright, but not ready for the shrink, if you know what I mean. Well, she told the lamb to lamb. She had a very primitive sense of humor. So the lamb lambed, and poor Mary, she never saw that lamb again. Well, wait a minute. She did see that lamb one more time when she graduated from school, and they gave her her diploma, which was white as snow. Didn't I tell you the story was sad? You see? Clever. That's Daws Butler. I could see that animated. That'd be very funny to animate that. And you don't even need Mr. Jinx necessarily, but it's loose. The thing about Mr. Jinx is he's very loose. He can, articulate, or he can slur his words. And when he's telling the lamb to lamb, that's clever, because he's rhyming, you see. And words like riposte, you dig? That's a good Jinx. See, your stuff's alive. What gets me, what the joke is so funny, because the white as snow relating to the lambskin is just hilarious. It's like, you think you're going to hear this charming story. It's a little off, it's a little quirky, but you accept it. And then at the end, it's like evil,
I gotta say,
did have a kind of a dark sense of humor.
I
subtle.
I did a terrible Jinx there. I should redraw him. That was terrible.
Oh, he's all right. He's tired. You get to erase it.
Oh yeah, I have.
I know it wasn't the greatest. At first, I thought when I saw the nose and the mouth, I thought it was going to be Huckleberry Hound. I'm thinking, what's Huckleberry Hound doing in a Mr. Jinx story?
Nah, he's got.
Sorry there, fella.
Again, it's still not. I haven't drawn Jinx in a while. It usually takes me 3 or 4 tries before I get the character again.
Well, it's the two-pronged things going on here that make it, But it doesn't matter. You give him a bow tie, he's Mr. Jinx. My favorite episode is, it's Dawes' favorite episode too, is Goldfish Fever. Oh no, Mr. Jinx has got goldfish fever. And he thinks that the meese and everything he looks at looks like goldfish. And I have goldfish. I have goldfish fever. Goldfish. Golden fish.
I gotta look those up and rewatch them.
Yeah, they don't treat him well. I don't think there's really any great, perfect copies. And by the way, for these historians out there who think that the first season of the Flintstones has been restored properly, that opening is from the second season. There's no Dino in the first season until about midway through, and he talks like Phil Silvers. Dino's really not part of the show until the second season, and that's the opening of the second season, opening and closing. I don't know. I guess they don't have the first seasons.
Yeah,
it's similar, but it's different. I don't know what that has to do with anything, but
no. It's good to know. I was actually just reading some more comments. Dylan, I'm not going to do a drawing right now like that, but maybe another time I will.
We don't need to draw anymore. In fact, we don't even need to do any voices necessarily. We could talk about something else.
Well,
talk about the cartoons we like, as we were doing earlier.
I
talk about I like to tell people how the voices were created, and they usually are amazed because sometimes they think totally different thoughts.
Well, let's do this because I'm going to stop the share of this here. Let me go over here. I don't want to, like I told you earlier, I don't want to go too long because I do have to get up early tomorrow. But I was going to bring this
boy,
up earlier.
it's okay. My son, if you got to go to bed, I put a horse's rear end in it to make you comfortable.
No. I'm good. I'm good. I just I wanted to bring this up when we were talking about dogs, but you kind of segued back into it. You were talking about how the voices were created. And Dawes's book that you guys seriously get the audio copy where Joe is reading it and he is doing the voices too. Daws explains how he came up with voices and how he did voices. And I thought that was one of the
they're all in there. Yeah, it's all in there.
Most fascinating parts.
He recorded it for me. He told me everything.
What do you say? Notice how the first, what do you say? HB voice actors names are Daws Don.
That's right. It's true. Yeah. It's true.
Yeah.
Doug Young is a fabulous guy. He played, Doggy Daddy, my son. And he did on Hokey Wolf. He was Hokey. He was the guy, the kid, the little wolf who talked when he lisped like that, which is supposed to be Buddy Hackett. He was the Grand Poobah on the Flintstones, and he in the first season, I remember he played a drill sergeant where their Fred and Barney are drafted into the army, and he thinks this is funny. When he told me the story, I don't know how funny it really is, but they used to crack each other up by changing the ding-a-ling. Thank you, Colin. By changing the lines to make people laugh, knowing that it was, they were going to have to redo it, but they wanted to break people up. And so he didn't want to break everybody up. And so the line was basically, okay, men, we're getting ready to go out. And when I say march, all right, up, 2, 3, let's forward, march. Instead of forward march, he said, Frederick March. Well, Frederick March was an old-time actor that they would have laughed because he was such a serious actor. It's not something that you say, Yeah. So you didn't think it was funny. I didn't think it was funny either, but he told it so.
Yeah, but you have to know who Frederick March was. I'm not familiar with him.
That's right. Yeah. Elvis, let's say. But he's an interesting guy, and that proves him. He told me that Daws got him a job. Without Daws Butler, he wouldn't have had any work. He was in town. He lived up north. He was in town visiting. He went out there with Daws and his wife, and then he said, you need some work. Why don't you come down? Daws says, why don't you come down to the studio, see if they got anything for you. Now, Daws could have done all those voices himself. He didn't need him. He could have done Doggy Daddy, right? Yeah. But Daws was really a sweet guy, and he would have just, wanted to work with this talented guy. And so they, brought him in. And I think those couple of years are the best work, boy. Really. Yeah. Late 50s, early 60s, the voices are just fantastic. And of course, B. Benaderet, that's the problem is like after B. Benaderet leaves, Betty is kind of like a shell of herself. She has no personality. Yeah. The voice is okay. It's fine. It doesn't sound anything like Betty Rubble. It's very cutesy and very feminine, whereas B. Benaderet was doing a kind of a deeper voice almost than Wilma, trying to sound more, like butch almost compared to Wilma, Mm-hmm. And that changed with the voice. It happens a lot. When you change actors like that, and still to this day, I hate the fact that now I'm nitpicking, but Barney Rubble's eyes, why did they turn them black? Yeah. Why did they color his eyes black? 65, 66 season. He was a funny character. He was not funny in that final season with his eyes black. I don't know why they did it. Well, I speculated.
His first appearance of black wasn't his eyes in the first episode. No, I have to go back and look.
That's what makes him very interesting. And his nose is turned up, and his hair is messed up, and everything's off skewed a little bit. Whereas they refine him, and by the end, he looks too perfect. His hair is combed, and his eyes are black.
Well, that was from one of the
reasons. Started using Xeroxography So they were, losing some of the detail when they would go directly from pencil drawings onto the cells.
Just as you said
yes, it was because of xeroxography.
Yeah.
Thank you, Cullen Pitt.
There was, but also as the later season went on, they had to rely on things like that because every season, the studios that were sponsoring the shows gave them less money to produce.
That's right. They
the
say,
shows.
we want another season, but do it at half the cost, and we want 2 other shows.
Exactly.
Do the
So
Flintstones and the Jetsons.
Yeah, and
do Top
so
Cat, Yogi Bear.
all those things.
You can make it work. Come on, Joe.
Yeah.
cut the budget. If you notice, the interstitials, the commercials are better animated. They look fully animated, like almost like MGM cartoons, because that's where all the money went. That's where all Kellogg's and Ideal's money went. And then Joe Barbera had to take the rest and throw it at the cartoons themselves, the actual work.
So, but yeah, no. So
again, there's no preservation. They just didn't care. There's no. It's not like you can go back to with AI like they're doing with the Beatles and turn it into brand new. You can hear a whisper in the corner. This stuff is, second, third, fifth generation. The best quality is not the newest. There's syndicated packages of them. Original credits missing. Half the time, Daws Butler's name's not even on them. For a long time, I remember the end credits on the Flintstones. They corrected this since, but when it was on syndicated, like in the 70s and 80s, they would have the same credits for every episode. Really? It would end with like Howard, John Stevenson, and Howard Morris as voices, as additional voices. Besides Alan Reed, whatever, and Jerry Johnson, whatever. And then the animators would be the same animators, and like that.
Oh, interesting.
Cullen, you need your own show.
Yes, that's
very true. Fred Silverman. There's I think all these guys they get a little brain idea. And they don't want to put the money in. Ted Turner's the same way. I mean, when he owned those Warner Bros. Library, he didn't do anything to clean them up. He just threw them out to people.
Yeah.
And whoever's brilliant idea was to ship those black and whites over to Korea to have them retraced. The Warner Brothers cartoons, the Porky Pigs, the black and whites. When they first came out, I was like, ooh, these are ones I've never seen. And then I'm like, and they superimposed the 1960s Warner Brothers logo over it for no reason. It didn't match.
I got to be honest. I don't remember that happening at this time.
They don't show them. They're dead. You wouldn't. God, your eyes would melt. You might as well put burning candles dripping off your eyeballs.
Well,
it'd be more pleasurable than watching that. And what they did was they cut out all the animation. So they just showed, like a pose, and then they cut out all the in-betweens. And then, you see, really? it was because they weren't copying or taking a photograph of it and then colorizing it like they do with computers. They were hand drawing it over again, tracing over it. You can see it. It looks like a child because you're tracing something that was drawn a long time ago. You're also tracing it from a poor source.
But yeah, excuse me. I thought I was going to sneeze. I had a cough. Thank you. It was actually a cough. I thought I was going to sneeze though. But
I see nothing. I hear nothing. Hogan. See, I'm like Robin Williams, but on calm. He was wired, but yes. I can do as many voices and think as fast as him, but I talk much slower.
No, that's good because if Robin Williams was here, I don't think any of us would be speaking.
No, he'd be talking really slow.
Yeah,
poor guy. But extremely. No, come on, I mentioned him only because if I could get any shine off of his light, what a talent! and a marvelous man.
You know. I've heard a lot of stories about him. All like really great stories about him. And like doing stuff for friends of his, this type of thing, like just a generous
that's
guy.
Right.
But I forgot where I wanted to go with my next question. But we're gonna have to wrap up in a few, so we should probably do that. I'm gonna save it mostly because I forgot it right now. But I want to do a part 2 with you. I want to bring you back in a little, not like right away. Let's give people some time, and we're gonna plan something really cool, you and I, to do live on the air. All right.
Yeah, sure, that'd be great.
I actually have the plan. I'll tell you backstage what I want to do, and we'll have a lot of
marvelous.
But
marvelous.
What we should do.
This is my fantasy island. Boss, the plane. You know, I stuck that on air sign up just for you. It actually doesn't belong there.
Thank you. I didn't
use toothpaste.
I just noticed it like a little bit ago, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool."
Well, I was brushing my teeth, and I thought that it looked like there was a blank spot there, so I stuck it up.
You should keep it there. It looks great.
I know. I think I may.
Yeah. You might want to use something other than toothpaste, though.
I think so. Yeah, it smells very minty in here, but when I was testing out beforehand, and I wanted to make sure I had something going on here. I used my own camera app on the computer, and it shows everything backwards. I've seen that. Yes. Like people take selfies, and all of a sudden everything's backwards. Like their T-shirt says Ramafram, and so the on air was opposite. I'm like, oh, I guess it's okay. Maybe he won't notice. I don't know. No, I'll just say I'm dyslexic and need it backwards.
No, there is something. I forget how to do
it. No. That's what it says. No.
Actually,
no.
It looks fine to me. Yeah, no, because it makes sense. On this is my for you guys on the screen. This is my left side, but it's my right side, and my Lord of the Rings posters on my right side. Just as this other stuff right behind me is on my left side, and it looks like. All right, so the camera is reading it properly to me.
That's right. It's reading it properly. For some reason, this camera, I don't know. I've never seen that before, but I've seen other people post pictures like that, where it's backwards for some reason.
Yeah. I think in this app you have to mirror your.
That's right. Sure.
Your image.
Let's see. It's got good quality. The video quality is good.
Like how Filmation, Superman sometimes had his son backwards. Yes. Let's talk about that another time, because I do want to wrap up. But I could talk about Filmation. We could talk about how bad their Mighty Mouse was, even though I love Mighty Mouse. We could talk about how bad their Tom and Jerry was, even though I love Tom and Jerry.
They tried.
Yeah, it was.
The worst though is the worst of all is Daffy Duck meets the Groovy Ghoulies, because poor Mel really, I don't know, he sounds very like throaty and he can't really do the voices, and then they oversped up Daffy. So he sounds like this, and for some reason Bugs isn't in it at all. I mean, every character's in there.
Really,
Sylvester, Yosemite, and there's no explanation for why the Groovy Ghoulies are in this Renaissance period with these animals in a trench in the castle with a court jester and I say, now listen here, son.
All right, now on that,
so, here's the kicker for me. And I don't know how old I was. I was, a teen. I'm watching the previous season, the first season of the Saturday Superstar movie. Had Yogi's Arc Lark on it, which wasn't bad. They used old Kurt music, so it worked kind of. Was disappointed they didn't use the same music for Yogi's gang for some reason. But at the end of the first season, ABC was advertising the next season of the Saturday Superstar movie, and the first one was going to be Daffy Duck Meets the Groovy Ghoulies, and they showed a clip of an old Bob Clampett classic with Daffy chasing Porky with a butcher knife. And it's clamping, it's Charles Clamp animation. It's, and I thought, hey, they really did a good job. That really looks like them. That's great. Maybe they got Big Kimpson. He's around. Maybe they still got him to animate. And then when it came on, I was like, oh no, it's Filmation. Oh no, it's Filmation. Oh no, they sped up Daffy's voice too much. I'm in hell. And poor Larry Storch is doing all the voices, all the groovy ghoulies.
Wow.
Trying his best. He's a funny guy. I like John Byner too, as both the aardvark and the ant, who looked as an ant. He's talking like Jackie Mason because people didn't really know who Jackie Mason was at the time because he hadn't been on Broadway yet. He'd been thrown off with the Ed Sullivan Show for doing things he wasn't supposed to do, but didn't actually do. But Ed Sullivan brought him back on the show, but it was too late because people were mad at him for not doing what he said he didn't do. And then you got Dean Martin. Everybody loves somebody, and he's doing Dean Martin as an ant. Plus, you got that great jazz music, Dixieland music. So I'm a big fan of the Frizz. Mark Arnold for Bear Manor Media wrote a book about the Patty Freeling cartoons, and I wrote the foreword.
I had did you? I had Mark Arnold on the show here. He's a good guy. I like him.
Mark's a great guy.
Yeah,
he knows a lot too. These people love the cartoons. The only difference between me and most of them is that I actually do it as well. So I think I have a little more connection. Like when I speak about it, I'm speaking about it not as an historian, but as somebody who's living it.
Yeah.
The history part comes from learning my craft and learning how to do it properly. Sitting next to Mel Blanc and Howard Morris, watching them do the Jetsons, the newer Jetsons, which were not very good. But again, they were great. Everybody in it,
Yeah.
And it was a big cast. Gene Vanderpyle as Rosie, Penny Singleton, everybody, George O'Hanlon was the only one who wasn't there because he was blind by then, and they had to have his lines recorded separately. Yeah. But everybody else was sitting there, and I got there was an episode where they brought back the nervous school bus driver of Howard Morris. Mm-hmm. He can't stand that the kids are so loud and noisy on the school bus spaceship, and so he's sitting next to me, and Mel is on this side doing Mr. Spacely. Yeah, that's where you learn. You learn by watching.
Yeah,
I wasn't allowed to speak. I wasn't as brave or as out there as Joe Lassie, because in the book he talks about how he was in those environments. He would go to see Captain Crunch commercials, and he'd walk up to Bill Scott and do Bullwinkle. How you doing there? And all of a sudden he's doing Bullwinkle, and he got work because of it.
Yeah.
Me, Daws Butler said to see Bill Scott would say, "Oh, go talk to him." Daws would say, "Don't really, just say hello, be polite, and don't impose yourself because these are professionals that are here to do a job." So I wasn't allowed to speak, and even during outtakes, or like fixing something or whatever, I just most I would do is laugh if somebody said something wrong or a blooper happened.
Yeah.
But I doubt if any of those people, except for Don Messick and Daws, of course, and Gene Vanderpyle, but Penny Singleton, I became pretty friendly with. Mm-hmm. If I could go back in time, that's one person that I would like to have met when she was young and did the Blondie bits, for example. Like to be on the set of a Blondie movie, Yeah. There's a few people like that I just and really you wish you'd been, like even Daws. I wish I had been there in his heyday. Yeah. Because by the 70s and 80s, he was very frustrated, as they all were. They didn't like the writing. They didn't like the work. Mike Maltese quit. He quit in '68, right during Wacky Races, and really because they were shifting to the superheroes, and he didn't write superheroes. And he said, "Joe, I'm going to retire. I don't write this. I write comedy." Yeah. Oh, which is fine. I mean, I love those other things, but I am a comedy guy. I'm a vaudeville guy. I want to laugh.
I like both, but I
Not that I'm recommending the robotic Stooges, by the way. No.
Oh,
but
yeah,
the real Three Stooges are okay. The robotic Stooges.
Hey,
you got a Bionic, you got the Stooges. Way, what do you want? Come on, Joe. I could see Joe Barbera selling anything because he's an old world Italian. He talked like this with his hands. Hey, you want it? You want the Bionic Man? We got 3 Bionic Men and the Three Stooges at the same time. Kids love the Three Stooges and they love the Bionic Man. You put them together, bang, you got a hit. Hong Kong Phooey, #1 super guy.
Love
Hong Kong Phooey, never say do or die. I like those because of, well, the animation's cute, clever, the drawings are very nice. It's Hanna-Barbera, and you got him as the sergeant. He talks like this. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about, but.
Yeah, Hanna-Barbera loved him. They used him on the Hair Bear Bunch too.
I know.
And he was working with the character he was working with in the zoo. It was supposed to be Joe Flynn, and they auditioned Joe Flynn, and they said Joe Barbera said he didn't sound enough like Joe Flynn, so they got John Stevenson to imitate Joe Flynn for that.
Wow.
Hair Bear, Mikhail. It's just a smarmy kind of.
Yeah.
But Joe Barbera was that way. He was kind of a weird guy. I bet you that Flynn asked for too much money.
That problem.
That's Daws. He lost a lot of work because his agent asked for double the amount of everybody else because they needed him, and he would start giving parts to Howard Morris or Alan Melvin or other people because he didn't want to spend the money. But when they did, which was relatively good, the Popeye, Hanna-Barbera Popeye, late 70s. They didn't use Mae Questel, and there's all kinds of rumors like that she lived in New York City and she didn't want to do it, that she smoked and her voice was too deep. But the fact is she lived in New York and she asked for travel money. She asked to be flown out there to do olive oil, and Joe Barbera said no, and he hired somebody else who doesn't really do it quite right. It's all right. It's a little.
I'd have to rewatch. It's been a while since I saw those versions, but
they're very good. Alan Melvin is Bluto, and then Jack Mercer's Popeye. And he writes a lot of them, so they're funny. They give him his old costume back, which is nice. His Merchant Marine outfit, and the look. Even Arnold's got big feet. The look is Fleischer look. And the music sounds more like Fleischer-y, and even the backgrounds are like those backgrounds in Betty Boop that kind of dance a little. They move, they're a little bit off. And they captured it very, very well. Daws plays Wimpy.
Oh,
and he does it as, yes, W.C. Fields, because he looks a little bit like him. I think somebody did him as W.C. Fields back in the Fleischer days. But generally, I always heard Wimpy as the sort of educated, erudite, rounded British character. I'd gladly pay you on Tuesday for a hamburger today, which was Jack Mercer. And I made the mistake of telling Daws I didn't like his Wimpy. He says, "Oh, gee, Joe, I'm sorry you didn't like my Wimpy. I thought W.C. Fields, but we didn't always agree, What's really funny is sometimes he'd send me a script to read, and it was, really funny, and I didn't get the joke necessarily, and I would read it, and I'd do the thing, and he'd send it back, and he would send me these recordings of him just talking about it, critiquing me. And he'd say, and one of them is, Joe, right here on this line, this is a joke. This is a real joke, Joe. It's an actual joke. Like that.
All right, man. We gotta stop right now just because of the time.
The best way to win.
Yes, we will listen. We will definitely talk more about Daws and everybody else next time you come on. I want to have you on again soon, but we're gonna do a little waiting because I have to do some prep for the idea I have. So I want to thank you for coming on. I'm gonna drop you backstage, and I'll be with you in one moment. Let me just do my closing up. Thanks again.
Is there cake and roses back there and champagne?
If you have them at your house, absolutely, man.
No, milk. That's all I got.
All right. Enjoy your milk. I'll talk to you in a moment. All right. All right, guys. So I want to thank you. I want to thank Joe for coming on, and thank you guys for hanging out and watching us the whole time. Don't forget, we put the links to Joe's stuff in the comments, so you guys could check them out. Also, don't forget this Saturday at Poe Park in the Bronx, noon to 5 p.m. is the art exhibit. What's it called? Batman, Bill Finger, and Beyond. I always forget the whole thing, but this is my piece that you will see in there. It is done in the J. Ward style. I was watching Bullwinkle when I drew this. So, again, Poe Park Tuesday in the Bronx, noon to 5. And my mouse moves. I can remove this, and I will see you guys next week. I have a great show next week coming up. Not sure if it's going to be one guest or two, but however many I do, it's going to be a fantastic show. We're going to be talking about the comic industry, the good, the bad, and the ugly about that, and what's going on. And we're going to have some fun. I really am very excited for it. But again, thank Joe for coming on, and I'll see you guys next week. You have a great rest of your week. Bye.